Good evening and thanks for joining us. The dispute over a natural gas pipeline in northern BC continues to have repercussions across the country. Via Rail is temporarily laying off 1,000 employees because the blockades on rail lines have interrupted most of its services. The first time that's happened in Via's 42-year history. The blockades have now gone on for almost 2 weeks. Today, another one was set up on a rail line near the historic Victoria Bridge in Montreal, and another went up on the CN main line in Edmonton.
Do you know how many trains go through Spruce Grove in a day?
About every 30 minutes.
Do you know that?
We also have the right.
You don't, and you don't care. And that's the sad part.
Some local residents then moved in and began to dismantle the blockade. It and the others are shows of solidarity for a group of Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs who oppose the Coastal GasLink pipeline being built through their territory. The natural gas pipeline was first proposed in 2012. It's gone through all the required approvals and consultations with Indigenous groups. It has received consent from some hereditary chiefs and 20 elected band councils along the route, but a handful of hereditary chiefs oppose it and say they have jurisdiction over the territory. It has put Prime Minister Justin Trudeau under intense pressure.
This government is working extremely hard to resolve this situation. We know that people are facing shortages, they're facing disruptions, they're facing layoffs. That's unacceptable.
His critics, though, say it's time to act and end the blockades. Alberta's Justice Minister tweeted today, Albertans will not be economic hostages to law-breaking extremists. There's word some of the Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs have left northern BC and are on their way to southern Quebec to meet members of the Mohawk community who have blocked a rail line there. We'll get to that in just a moment, but we begin with Mike Le Couteur on what political leaders are doing as calls to end the blockades get louder.
The sounds of traditional drums rang out on the rails on the western edge of Edmonton, signaling more support of the Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs.
Get Coastal GasLink to respect Wet'suwet'en law and remove themselves from their territory, along with the Royal Colonial Mounted Police.
Later in the day, a manifestation of the frustration that some are feeling. Some residents arrived saying the Prime Minister isn't doing anything, so they were going to take action and began dismantling the blockade. That frustration is being felt and voiced in Ottawa, where opposition leaders continue to demand a solution to the nearly 14-day standoff.
So once again, can he tell people who are just laid off on what day they can get back to work?
Right Honourable Prime Minister. Continuing to do everything we can to resolve this situation peacefully.
But some premiers are tired of waiting, so they held a conference call to discuss next steps that they can take to end the blockades.
We cannot exclude to use police, but it has to be done in coordination in every provinces at the same time.
That's not an option the federal government is considering, calling instead for calm.
This is a pivotal point in our history.
Indigenous Services Minister Mark Miller is in constant communication with the protesters near Belleville, Ontario, in an effort to maintain a level of trust. And he says the highest levels of government are working on a solution.
Minister Blair, Minister Garneau, Minister Bennett, the Prime Minister himself, and myself, as long as other ministers that can ensure the channels of communication remain open and are conducive to positive discussions.
It's a whole-of-government approach from a party that campaigned on reconciliation with Indigenous people. But Alberta Premier Jason Kenney says that ideal and the economy are being hijacked in the process.
Reconciliation doesn't mean allowing a couple of people to shut down the national economy.
Late tonight, the Premier sent out a joint statement asking for a meeting with the Prime Minister via teleconference to discuss paths to a peaceful resolution. No word from Trudeau's office on whether or not he'll take them up on that offer. Dawna?
Okay, Mike Le Couteur, thanks.